Hello fellow people persons, Nate here for MMO Play with another Smite review for fairly recently released Raijin, God of What the Hell Am I Doing Wrong? Also Thunder. After several melee hero reviews, I was looking forward to playing a ranged caster type character in depth. As it turns out, I suck at it, but I don't think that's entirely Raijin's fault, emphasis on the word entirely. As god of fearsome lightnings and thunderings, the raw power behind his attacks is evident in the way he can take down enemy players with a mere 2-1 combo in the early levels. The combination of his lightning dog bursting forth upon a drum smash spells trouble for enemies if they're standing still, which, at least in my games, is very rarely the case. His two primary means of damage are comprised of a narrow, slow-traveling line skill and a small, ground-targeted circle that doesn't get the benefit of immediate AoE damage. Both of these skills are incredibly difficult to land a hit with, especially against more agile enemies. Further, the range of these skills is limited, putting Raijin dangerously close to the heat of battle where his limited innate defenses, while better than most other mages, can still get him into trouble. The brunt of his damage is hidden behind his passive, Static Crescendo, which requires 4 charges prior to release, meaning that planning is necessary to truly make Raijin shine against an already overflowing roster of raged deities. However, over the battles I tested Raijin in, I've consistently killed the most enemies among my teammates, even if I was also frequently among the most often killed. When his skills are backed by magic power and penetration, he can tear down unarmored enemies often before they become even much of a threat. Enemies with high defense and HP, however, were another story, and though they generally had to run from me, my limited mobility made it difficult to chase them when necessary. This is another issue for me with Raijin, in that his lack of crowd control requires your hits to land with precise timing and aim in order to secure a kill, where enemies will have very little difficulty fleeing. So, I spent a lot of time complaining about what he's got working against him, but that's not to say that he's a bad character. I just believe that playing him well and correctly seems to be an underrated feat. He takes some getting used to far more than other gods I've played, but his ability to pull unexpected kills from a flock of incoming enemies, which is the only smart way to approach a Raijin player, is satisfyingly devious. While his passive takes some setting up, it nearly doubles the effect of his followed skill. A buffed 2 skill, Raiju, followed by his ultimate, will almost always destroy an enemy even from full health, and if said enemy is surrounded by their allies, they will either be eliminated from the fallout or need to retreat to safety. Further, he's incredibly beefy for a mage, which is helpful for dropping a 3-skill Thunder Crash on near-death enemies attempting to flee. His naturally high health and armor gain give him just enough elbow room to escape to safety afterward if used wisely. This also prevents excessive ganks from enemy rogues, which pose a far less lethal threat to Raijin than other casters. Coupled with an item like Mail of Renewal or Warlock Sash, and a duel between you and an enemy mage is nearly guaranteed to end in your favor. His 1 skill, Percussive Storm, is a suitable substitute for Raiju Devastation when your ultimate is on CD, detonating Raiju from a fairly safe distance. Though the skill is hard to aim in arena environments where I prefer to play, it does seem to do especially well in other modes where the map is comprised largely of long, narrow areas. It's also a great lane clear, and will help rack up kills quickly and efficiently for item bonuses like Book of Thoth. Finally, said ultimate Taiko Drums is easily among my favorite in the game because of its power and utility. Just on its own, it hits insanely hard with high damage spread out over 4 attacks. The beat of the drum defaults to option 1, which is 100% damage, but 2 and 3 shift to taunt and fear modes respectively, lowering damage but enabling some CC should responsive Raijin players find themselves surrounded by enemies over the course of their ultimate. While I was seldom the most powerful player in my teams, that honor frequently going to roguish teammates playing characters like Loki or Bastet, I was frequently the most feared. Enemies would only approach me in group, anticipating my ridiculous single-target damage and attempting to counter with numbers. It typically worked, which forced me to change my strategy. This is when I really started to feel Raijin as a character. In a lane environment, coming up against an entire enemy team is fairly rare until the endgame, by which time the die is already cast. In arena environments, this isn't the case. Raijin forced me to be a team player, really engaging and planning around being a strong team rather than carrying an average one, and I appreciate that in hindsight. Being the biggest target on the field means needing to rely on allies to back you up until you begin to snowball, at which point you can lead the charge like an angry, staticky bull, both you and your teammates better for it. Raijin has the potential to punish his handler as much or more than his enemies, but in capable hands he can turn the tide of battle nearly on his own just by dishing out more damage than enemies can risk chancing, creating anxiety in opponent ranks that ultimately leads to their complacency and downfall. Among mages, he's their assassin, the magical anti-mage that tears through low health and armor players easily, though players will have to remain wary of higher armored enemies that can weather his storms. His spike damage is impressive but also immediate, and without it he's a sitting duck, making cooldown reducing items a must-have if Raijin players expect to remain effective. And that's it for this review of Smite's Thunder God Raijin. I hope you enjoyed the video, and be sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments what you think of the character.